166. Humanism and Education. Chalcedon Report number 54, February the 1st, 1970. When a religion begins to die, the people begin to turn against it. Mobs ransack and burn the temples, mock, defy, and express contempt for its priests, and hurl stones and abuse at its defenders. Religions die hard. Their hold on people is profound and far-reaching. When disillusionment sets in, and the once faithful believers suspect that the God is dead and the priests are deceivers, their bitterness is intense. They may be better off materially than ever before, but because man does not live by bread alone, the death of man's gods is always a painful thing. We are living now in the last days of a powerful religion, humanism, and we are experiencing the bitterness of its disillusionment. We are witnessing the death of its God, man as God, and this God dies with real blood. Horace Mann, the founder of the state-supported public school movement in the United States, saw the public school and university as man's true church and his great hope of salvation. As I pointed out in The Messianic Character of American Education, Mann saw the school as the agency which can change society and create a true utopia, paradise on earth. In Mann's own words, let the common school be expanded to its capabilities, let it be worked with the efficiency of which it is susceptible, and 9/10 of all the crimes in the penal code would become obsolete. The long catalogue of human ills would be abridged. Men would walk more safely by day. Every pillow would be more inviolable by night. Property, life, and character held by a stronger tenure. All rational hopes respecting the future brightens. This was the early 1930s. By 1886, Zach Montgomery, prominent attorney and Assistant Attorney General of the United States, had pointed out, in Speech on the School Question, that a rising crime rate followed the introduction of the public schools in every state. Even the conservative statist education of that day could not give the moral discipline and the faith undergirding that discipline which Christian schools had given. Not too many years ago, criticism of the public schools and universities was tantamount to blasphemy, and indeed it was blasphemy to the humanists. Anyone criticizing these sacred halls of learning was regarded as either dangerous or stupid. Ironically, today it is the children of humanism who are destroying their own temples. The Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, Robert Knowles, School vandals cost whopping $2.4 million, January the 25th, 1970, page A8, gives us a sorry picture of the cost of vandalism in Los Angeles County's 86 elementary and high school districts in fiscal 1968 to 1969. $2.4 million. At that, Los Angeles County got off lightly when compared to other major urban schools. The attacks are largely motivated by sheer hatred, by a desire to destroy a symbol of a failing faith, the public school. The same is true in our colleges and universities, virtually all of which are controlled either by state or by federal funds. The, quote, private, end quote, university has virtually ceased to exist. Stanford, for example, recently had between $40 to $42 million per year in federal funds, as against $29 million from private sources. Since much of the $29 million represented endowed funds, the actual amount from living donors was very much less. Stanford, thus, is better described as a federal university than a private one, and the same is true of all our major older universities of supposedly, quote, private, end quote, character. In these colleges and universities, the hatred and contempt for administration and faculty is often intense. It is a hatred shared even by those who do not demonstrate in riot. The faculty, bewildered priests of an old and fading cult, cannot understand why they are hated and despised. Their hope is that somehow the mood will change and the rights of the temples of learning will return to their old, established authority. But humanism has on its hands a dead God who cannot be resurrected, and it has bitter worshippers whose hopes have been confounded. Humanism has not brought in an age of peace, but rather the era of total war. It has not made man more peaceful, but rather more radically at war with all things and with himself. It has not solved man's basic problems, but rather aggravated them. Malaria and smallpox have been largely eliminated in its central areas, but ulcers and heart attacks have replaced them. Man's growing inner pollution has been progressively matched by a radical pollution of his world. Now, the grim fact has been discovered that the plankton of the ocean, source of 70% of the Earth's oxygen, are being killed by pesticides, and humanistic man is afraid and angry. Like the angry and disillusioned believers of old, he turns on his priests, the educators, and on his temples, the schools. He turns on the world of humanism and its great cities and cries, "Burn, baby, burn." Men of faith build. Men whose faith is dying, and they dying with it, have instead an urge to destroy. The Vandals now destroying the Rome of humanism are its own sons. Men of faith build. The era of humanism culminated in a time of dissection. Scholarship came to mean endless analysis of a dissecting variety. Psychology replaced faith, and self-analysis action. Ulcers became the hallmark of a humanistic culture, man destroying himself. Then came the days of burning, when schools, state buildings and cities became the targets of destruction. In a time of destruction, growth is not too conspicuous. In a forest being cut down or newly burnt over, the little sprouts of fresh growth do not loom too large, but they are there. The new growth is definitely all around us. The Christian school movement is the most conspicuous example. Since covenant children belong in covenant schools, Christians are steadily creating a new society by means of Christian education. A highly disciplined, better trained, and truly educated youth is in the making. The Christian school is based on the logical premise that, while the gods of humanism are dead, the Christian God is not dead. Our choice of schools indicates our faith. If our God is left out of every area of life, or virtually every area, then we subscribe to the death of our God, or at least his basic irrelevance to our world. The growth in popularity of Christian schools means that, for more and more people, the God of Scripture is alive. Even as the growing collapse of statist education signals the death of the religion of humanism, so the growing strength of the Christian school movement heralds the fact that God is alive and strong. By faith in him, a generation is growing strong and holds a promise of reconstruction. But the death of humanism in the days ahead will take down with it all those institutions associated with humanism, and today that includes virtually every church. Humanism has deeply infected and captured Eastern Orthodox churches, the Roman Catholic Church, and Protestant churches, including, quote, evangelical, end quote, churches, and they will pay the penalty for their infection and surrender. Men of faith build. Their eyes are on the future, not on a return to the past. One of the tragic examples of a man looking backward was the great Roman general, Stilicho. He was born a Vandal, became the highest officer under the emperor in Rome, and married into the imperial family. Stilicho was deeply moved and impressed by the past glory of Rome. It was his life's hope to restore and strengthen Rome's glory. Again and again, Stilicho, a Vandal of humble birth, saved Rome and stopped the invading Visigoths under Alaric. But within Rome, the decay was deep in men's hearts, and, as a result, Stilicho was hated for his barbarian origin and his power. As a result, the emperor was prevailed upon to sentence Stilicho to death for high treason. Although innocent, according to Giorgio Falco, he did not resist. He could have counted on the soldiers to defend him, but in loyalty to Rome, he refused to start a civil war and obediently bent his head to the executioner's axe. As a result, Alaric, on August the 24th, AD 410, entered Rome and sacked it. Stilicho was a very great man, but he could build nothing, because his vision was geared to the past, to a dying order, not to the future. Somewhat later, Theodoric the Great, AD 455 to 526, failed for the same reason. His very evil mind and his exceptional powers made him a remarkable monarch of an Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy. Few men have seen the issue with respect to law more clearly than Theodoric. He wrote to the Provençals when he annexed them to his kingdom. Here you are then, by the grace of Providence, back in the Roman society and restored to your ancient liberty. Take back then also customs worthy of the people who wear the toga. Strip yourselves of barbarity and ferocity. What could be more beautiful than to live under the rule of the right, to be under the protection of the laws, and have nothing to fear? Law is a guarantee against all weakness, and the fount of civilization. Individual caprice belongs to barbarity. Few men have equaled that insight, but it was misdirected in Theodoric. Although he gave Italy in his 30 years' reign a peace and prosperity it had not enjoyed for centuries, his life was a failure, because his vision was directed also to Rome's past glory, and the old Romans rejected him. Even more, Rome was dead. The future belonged to Christ. The future always belongs to Christ, because he is always Lord of history, the maker and sustainer of all things, and their absolute judge. Christ's words to us in a time of burning and of dying gods is still this: "Follow me, and let the dead bury their dead." Matthew chapter 8, verse 22. Nehemiah, when he began a work of reconstruction among the ruins, wasted no time in negotiations with the men of the past. He continued working on the walls, declaring, "I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down." Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 3. The schools, churches, and institutions of the dead must not hold us. We have a great work to do: reconstruction under the mandate of the sovereign and living God. Certainly there is destruction and burning all around us. The modern Baal worshippers are turning on their gods, and their gods are destroying them. Isaiah long ago warned his generation, saying, "Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, for wherein is he to be accounted of?" Isaiah chapter 2, verse 22. But faith in man is the essence of humanism, and it is the foundation of modern politics and economics. God, as sovereign Lord, is able to create out of nothing. In humanism, statist man is given credit for the same power, the ability to create out of nothing, or so the humanist believes. John Law, the father of the economics of virtually every civil government in the modern world, believed that money and wealth can be created out of nothing. "I have invented a new kind of currency," John Law wrote. "What is this coin you are holding in your hand at this moment? It is a piece of metal which bears an impression. What are you now in need of? Cash. I cannot create metal, but I am able to multiply the impression by having it put upon paper. And, for my own part, I maintain that it is the impression that is the cash. Just reflect. Yesterday, when the last of the cash in the Bank of Scotland was paid out, there were people who said, 'But the bills are still in circulation.' I pledge my paper money on land, and I might pledge it upon the wealth contained in the ocean. The ideal method would be to pledge it upon nothing at all. But human beings have not yet reached such an advanced stage that they can accept confidence as their only guarantee. You are poor because you have no cash. I'm giving you some. My paper currency can and must be always equal to the demand made for it. Thanks to it, the inhabitants of this country will have employment. Manufactures will be greatly improved, home and foreign trade will be extended, and power and riches will be gained. Law stated it honestly, this modern faith. Man, the creator, can create instant money and virtually instant wealth. The basis of this money is confidence, trust in man, trust in the state. But Isaiah warned against trusting in man, and he called attention to the debased coinage of his day as an offence against God's order. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 22. Paper money is a fitting symbol for the dying world of humanism. Like the temples of humanism, it too is being burned, in this case by inflation. Wise men will keep the smoke out of their eyes and build. The whole world is ours to conquer in Christ. This is our duty and our calling, and we shall do it